Welcome back. President Trump cutting automakers a bit of a break on some tariffs. He signed a pair of executive actions yesterday, relieving domestic car makers from paying stacked tariffs, several different tariffs, allowing them to qualify for relief over 2 years. As the industry boosts domestic supply chains, the president explained it away yesterday. Watch.
We just wanted to help them during this little transition, short term. And during this little, if they can't get parts, you know, it has to do with a very small percentage. If they can't get parts, we didn't want to penalize them. And you have a 1 year period and then they have an extra year, but it's for a very, very small part of the car. Basically, they're paying 25%.
The big three automakers responding. General Motors delayed its analyst call and pulled guidance until further clarity comes in. Mary Barra will join us tomorrow. Stellantis reacted with appreciation, but is, quote, further assessing the impact. And the CEO of Ford, Jim Farley, expressed support, saying his company will continue to work closely with the Trump administration. Take a look at auto stocks this morning. About an hour and 15 minutes before the opening bell sounds, a mixed story. Joining me now, the man himself, the CEO of Ford, Jim Farley, is with us. Jim, great to see you. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi, Maria. We're here at the Kentucky truck plant, our most profitable plant in the country. Thanks for having us on.
Yeah, I want to hear about the Kentucky plant for sure, but give us your reaction to what you heard from President Trump. Is this softening the blow for your company, and how will it impact Ford?
Well, first of all, Ford is really different. We make 80% in the U.S., more than any other manufacturer. In fact, we made 400,000 more vehicles than our next competitor, and that would fill up the entire island of Manhattan. That's how big of a gap we've made. So, look, we think this is really great for the country. We really support the president's initiative. We never left the America on car production, and so this moderation is reasonable. I think for mostly our competitors. They need more time, but at Ford, we're in good shape. And this is the right thing to do. We really appreciate the dialogue we've had with the president, but we have a lot more work to do with him and the team.
Yeah, I mean, look, that's why we really wanted to talk with you, Jim, because I know that you are among the most U.S.-centric automaker with the 80% of the vehicles made here. But really what we want to get your take on are the auto parts. And some of those parts are coming from different places. So when you see this kind of softening, is it going to have a big impact?
Well, look, first of all, you know, 50% of all vehicles sold in the United States are imported. They come through our ports. Imagine that, 50%. Just 30 years ago was 90% made here. So this is a big deal. Literally, that 8 million vehicles that are imported would be 20 assembly plants like Kentucky here. We're talking 1 million jobs. So moderating the parts that 10 to 15%, as the president said, to make the vehicles more affordable is reasonable. But we have to look at whether these policies really change our competitors' commitment to America. If our competitors made the same commitment as Ford did, that'd be 4 million vehicles more built in the U.S. That'd be 10 assembly plants. So we got to see what the competitors do.
So tell us about the Kentucky truck plant and all of those jobs there supporting the 9,000 direct employees and 100,000 indirect jobs, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the biggest, most profitable plants in the world. Certainly our most important. It makes the Super Duty, the new Expedition and Navigator, super popular vehicles, you know, and we're #1 in the Super Duty. This is the example of what the president is trying to do. If I could take all of America, walk around this place, you meet 9,000 people whose kids are going through college. These are good jobs. But in the summer, it's 120 degrees. It's a hard job, too. But this is what Ford has always believed in. We never left. And this is what the president's trying to do to our country, to make these kind of plants, like 10, 20 more of these across our country. And it will really change our industry.
So are you expecting to build more plants in America then?
Well, we never left, and our plants are pretty busy. But we are building more. We have a new plant in Ohio, a new plant in Tennessee. The cranes are up. We're expanding at Ford. We're more than 85% now of our vehicles built here. We're the #1 exporter in the United States of automobiles, but we are building 2 brand new plants. But no one had to ask us to do it, Maria.
Yeah.
It's part of our DNA.
And nobody had to ask you also to invest also in electric vehicles, right? And invest across the spectrum in terms of vehicles. I want to get your take really on the non-U.S. content regarding auto parts, Jim. And I'm wondering, something's got to give, right? Yep. With the pressure on auto parts, do you expect that perhaps you'll focus less on things like EVs?
Well, look, auto parts are really critical. 80% of the value of a vehicle, the parts that go into it, and they come from all over. But there are a lot of parts, fasteners, washers, nuts, wiring looms, carpet, stuff like that we have to keep the vehicle affordable for Americans. That's the balancing act. But we make, 75, 80% of the parts for our vehicles, and 80% made here, are U.S. parts. But that 15% is critical to make the vehicles affordable. And that's the discussion we're having with the administration. Now, a lot of our competitors, they import millions and millions of vehicles in the U.S. That's not our case. So the parts are really the key policy decision. We got emissions to go through and tax policy next.
So what are the options here, Jim? And you've made the point many times, and we appreciate it. Our audience gets it. Ford is an American company. You build your cars in America, and you are the most U.S.-centric automaker. We got it. But I want to talk about that 15% on auto parts, because this is having an impact, and it seems like that's what investors are reacting to. So you have a few options here, because something's got to give. Do you focus less on electric vehicles? Yep. Do you start pulling away from that? Do you eat the cost, or do you raise prices?
I see. Okay, so let me start with the last one first. Ford is announcing today, Maria, I'm announcing on your show that we're going to extend the employee pricing. That means all the employees here, the price they buy a car, we're going to extend that for all of America through 4th of July, Independence Day. No other company is doing that. We've had a great reaction. So we're committed to keeping our prices as low as possible for America.
Terrific.
But you're right about the parts. This is a big decision and discussion. Look, we only make 6% margin as a company, maybe 10 on a good day. The 15% of parts we import, a 25% burden on those could basically wipe out half our global profit. So this is a very big decision by the Trump administration, by the auto companies, even the most American one. What is the right balance between affordability and making 100% of the parts here? We can make 100% of the parts in the U.S. We do that for many of our vehicles. The issue is that would increase the price a couple $1,000s. So that's the debate right there.
Yeah. So in terms of what you're going to do, in other words, you haven't decided. I mean, we're talking about these tariffs. They are going to take effect, even though the president is softening the blow, and it might not be stacked. You're still facing tariffs, right? So what's the impact?
Yeah. Well, first of all, we think the impact. We have earnings next week, so I don't want to preview there. But look, Ford is the most American company in the largest scale. So if there's any company that can handle these kind of headwinds, it's going to be Ford. And we're now announcing employee pricing through 4th of July, through the summer. So I think we're in the best shape of all the companies. But there are a lot of other areas that we want to work with the government. And on the EVs, I want to mention that because you brought it up. Ford is number 2 to EVs on Tesla. We love EVs. But we want people to buy them because of what they are, not because someone told us how many to sell. We also are number 3 in hybrid. The F-150 hybrid is 25% of all F-150s. It's the best-selling vehicle in the U.S. So we offer hybrid, we offer electric, we offer gas, we offer V8 manuals in the Mustang, and we just have manufacturing flexibility to move between those.
Yeah.
And that's our strategy. We'll keep investing in EVs. but it's only part of what we offer. We'll let the customer decide.
Absolutely. And that Ford F-50 is so incredibly popular. And I want to get your take on that because people love that truck, not only because it's a great truck, but because it's a value and because it's affordable. So that's why we want to understand if, in fact, the price is going to go up. Look, investors are watching, Jim, and I know that you've already given the investment community your guidance for 2025. The other day, your competitor, General Motors, told us, ignore the guidance that we've already put out there. We need more clarity. Is that where you are? Should we still stick to that guidance that you gave us, or are you about to tell us as well, ignore the initial guidance and let us look for more clarity on this?
Well, next week we report guidance and earnings, so I don't want to preview that, Maria, but I will say Ford is in the best position of all the companies to deal with this transition of a more American manufacturing base. And I'm not going to go into guidance now, but I'll tell you we're in the best position. And working with the Trump administration, we found them to be incredibly practical about this transition for a whole industry. And we want our competitors to make the commitment we have.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go into the specifics, but I will tell you that we're in good shape at Ford. We're going to have a great year. We're working on these, but there is more to do with the administration. But I'm really optimistic because they have the same vision for our industry that Ford always has, and we never left.
Jim, let me ask you a question about China, and I know you do not build in China. That's not what this is about, but you had a Chinese car that you were driving for a while, and I heard and I understand that you thought it was pretty good quality. Can you assess how the Chinese have come along in terms of auto production, competing with U.S. automakers? They're not in the U.S. yet, but are you expecting them to come and create even that much more competition for the automakers in America?
Well, China is now the #1 exporter of vehicles globally. It's not South Korea, it's not Japan. They're the #1 exporter. The local market is 20 million. They have more than double that capacity locally, and they don't have to build any more plants. They're exporting everywhere. I think that last year, 20% of the Mexico market was sourced in China. So they are a big player. And they bet on EV and they bet on high technology, but they have huge subsidies by their government. You know, we don't want free trade, we want fair trade. And that's what this president is really trying to advocate. When it comes to China, China knows how important auto industry is for the manufacturing base and for the jobs. And that's the same thing in America. So we have to be really smart about our policy. Our vehicles have cameras, they can drive themselves now, they have software. You know, they're paying attention to what's going on in the car, what people are doing, where they're driving. So these cars are like you know, routers or your cell phone. And we have to look at these vehicles not just on the economic threat from China, but on the security and privacy for these vehicles. It's a whole policy we need to put around China when it comes to the U.S.
Yeah, and that's what President Trump is trying to do. Jim, it's great to have you. You're a real patriot, and we appreciate you taking us behind the scenes in the most U.S.-centric automaker. We'll be watching the story. Thanks, Jim.